Mike Mayo, which if the Panthers are down, 3-1 after two periods, I would have to say I defer to the notion that, well, I have to get up early tomorrow. I don't think I'll be able to watch the rest of this game. Because who would want to sit with an incredible rat like Mayo? I had to take it all day yesterday on the radio show. I fired back with everything I had. I even said that the officiating was very fun.
You rock up the refs and hockey.
The Capitals, like a joke of an argument.
That's great. We're desperate when we're bitching about refs and hockey.
Refs and hockey. Man, they call a lot of penalties. You know what? If you looked at it, very pathetic state of mind to be in. That's what happens when you got a big mouth.
Yep.
And you start losing a bet. So I give Mayo all the liberty he wants. I mean, if he's up 2-0 when he comes on the show, I'll just no point in us coming back with anything. It's like an argument with your wife, right? What's the point of coming back with something?
Yeah.
You think she's buying your argument? Of course not. That's why you're fighting in the first place.
Exactly. The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
On a glorious Monday, good to be with you here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, and I almost ran out of tranquilizers over the weekend. Thank goodness for the widespread use of legalized marijuana and marijuana dispensaries, because that was as wild a sporting weekend as you could possibly imagine. So many different things happening on so many different levels and different platforms. It was just absolutely scintillating, and it only figures to be enhanced this coming week. So good to have you guys with us. As I said, Mike Lubitz, a very nervous man. He wants nothing to do with the aforementioned Mike Mayo in the next series, where he's proposed yet another ridiculous bet that you would think that he has 0.0 Blutarski numbers, chances of winning, as he now predicts that the Tampa Bay Lightning will sweep the Florida Panthers out of the second round of the playoffs, which in the NHL really is, that should stand for anything can happen, right? It should be ACH. Anything can happen in the National Hockey League. Of the 8 series that were contested, 5 went to a 7th game. Yep. And of those, the 2 that were played yesterday, both go into overtime.
Yep.
Calgary prevailing late at night over the Dallas Stars, who were kind of a surprise. Many people thought Calgary, and they're still alive to do this, I would imagine, still has a possibility of Calgary winning the Stanley Cup, although I don't know that I saw it after that struggle that they had in a low-scoring series. I think that was the lone low-scoring series, the Calgary-Dallas series, dominated by the goaltenders and defensive play. 3-2 last night in overtime, and so the Calgary Flames will now go against the Edmonton Oilers, who also had to go to a Game 7 to win their series. They were trailing in that series 3-2, and they feature a wide array of talented players, including a guy that many people feel might be the best in the NHL today, the second coming of Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, who had a huge series. He certainly showed up as a star presence in the Edmonton series victory, as they were winners in 7 games of their contest, and end up now facing the Calgary Flames. So that really is Wild West, right? I mean, Calgary, way out west. Edmonton, way out west. And so we'll see what happens there. You would have to think that bodes very well for the Colorado Avalanche to chalk out of the Western Conference in the NHL to probably prevail. They will take on the St. Louis Blues, who the Blues, they won in 6, I believe.
I don't remember their series at all.
Won their series. Yeah, it's crazy. It's hard to keep track of all of the different things that were happening, especially as we're focused here on the East Coast. We got it. We did it, Lubie. We came through.
We did. Thank goodness.
Wow. I mean,
oh, my God.
That could not have been more exciting on Friday night. That was the Panthers victory.
It feels like it was last year.
You know what it reminded me of? It really did. It reminded me of that whole Nick Wallenda thing when he was going over the Grand Canyon there in the tightrope and they misgauged the wind. And I realized that the wind does blow through canyons. It does happen like that. And all of a sudden you get like the Santa Ana winds are kicking up, and they've made their way over to Las Vegas. And this guy's trying to balance himself. Now, he was sort of attached to the thing, so it wasn't like he was going to go into the bottom of the abyss there and fall like 1,500 feet or something like that. But nonetheless, it was kind of treacherous to watch as he was praying to God. And as we've often referenced, probably The most unusual aspect of that whole telecast was that Joel Osteen was assisting from a mental standpoint, supposedly, Nick Wallenda as he went out there, and he was giving him confidence. And there were many God references, like, oh, God. It was crazy. It was like some kind of religious revival, more so than a stunt being executed by a guy who should be well practiced at this. I mean, the whole family has been doing this for like 2,000 years, and he's in the middle of the Grand Canyon there, not looking too sure of himself, wearing a pair of like ballet slippers and holding a rod. And I think I don't want to, I don't want to imply that maybe that this actually took place, but I think Joel Osteen was having his rod held by Wallenda's wife.
Oh yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
Keep going, Nick. Keep going. They're making out there, and it's kind of crazy to see Joel Osteen. I mean, not that I believe that he might be a little bit of a phony variety, but yeah, he's very good at what he does. I have to say, he's very good at what he does. When you watch those lectures, you start to believe that you know what, maybe Jesus can come and save me, but I don't think so.
I don't know. That's a long.
Not from the neurosis that was attached with this NHL Stanley Cup chase by the Florida Panthers, who now run into their nemesis, the team that knocked them out last year.
Yeah.
And went on to win the Stanley Cup. What, we were talking about back-to-back championships for the Tampa Bay Lightning?
Yes.
Are they going for a third in a row? Is that right?
Yes.
Third in a row for the Tampa Bay Lightning. And they looked pretty sharp in beating the Toronto Maple Leafs in another Game 7 thriller in Manila contest where, dare I say it, do I want to mention this word early in the program here and early in the week? Because Game 1 of this series between the Lightning and the Panthers will take place tomorrow. And then later in the program, this is great because we love this girl, Jessica Blaylock of the Panthers broadcast team, also on the Marlins broadcast team for Bally Sports Florida, will join us. And, it wouldn't be surprising if she had just bitten off all of her nails while watching this series and trying to help analyze it, because it was Michigan from the start. And characteristic of virtually all of the series that took place, the Rangers winning a Game 7 in overtime last night, so they advance. Rangers and Pittsburgh was a hell of a series, and the Rangers now will take on Carolina in the next round of the playoffs. I was happy for Gerard Gallant. I thought he really got the shaft from the Florida Panthers. And then it was surprising. Maybe there's something there in the personality with Gerard Gallant, one of those hockey hard-ons that you see that you're thinking this guy's not taking any crap from ownership. No general manager is coming in there and saying, hey, you know what, Jerry? I think you ought to play so-and-so more. And he's more likely to get a resounding go fuck yourself than he is to get like, oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So, that's the old theory. The cliche would apply there. Maybe he wore out his welcome with management. It's one thing to have your voice and your message lost on the players. That's the other cliche that's usually associated with a coach's dismissal, mysterious coaching dismissal. Yeah, well, they needed to hear another voice. Did that with the Islanders with Barry Trotz. I mean, Trotz is an accomplished coach. Who could argue with this man's success over the years? Does he not know how to coach? But that was a word from Lou Lamoriello, who runs the New York Islanders organization, that they might have needed to hear a different voice. I think he might have needed to hear a different voice.
Yeah.
Lamoriello. That's usually more the case than the players. But, in the case of Trotz, I mean, how can you possibly, if you had an interim coach like Brunette, who's now distinguished himself, how can you get rid of this guy after he won the playoff series?
No.
Impossible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, he's there.
Led him to the number 1 record in the NHL this year after he took over from Joel Quenneville. And then finds a way to win this playoff series, even though, I mean, this was Wallenda-esque, was it not? Did you not feel like you were on a tightrope the entire time? This looked like yet another loss in that Game 6 clincher for the Florida Panthers. Appeared to be dead in the water. They're trailing in the game once again. They find a way to tie it up late and then get the win in overtime, which was their second overtime win of the series of the 4 games they won. 2 in OT coming from behind. Each team traded rather lopsided victories in the game. I guess you could call the Capitals win in Game 1. Well, their Game 3 victory was lopsided in their favor. Yes. Game 1, very lackluster performance by the Florida Panthers. Game 2, they rebounded, looked like themselves.
Yes.
They lose Game 3 mysteriously. Come back and tie it up in Game 4 miraculously after being down 3 goals. That was ugly. And, that was the 3-goal deficit was in Game 5.
Yes.
Pivotal Game 5. So
yes. Game 4 was the one where they were down a goal late, and they pulled the
Oh,
goalie.
they pulled the goalie with 3 minutes to go. Yeah. Like
Then
a ridiculous apparent coaching blunder of enormous proportions. And it somehow works out. So
Game 5 was a 3-goal deficit, and then Game 6 was another chippy affair that they were close, but still got down and then came back and won.
I don't know if I could take 3 more series like that.
I can't.
I really don't. And I certainly can't take wagering on these things anymore.
I can't.
Enough is enough. Mayo, you win, man. I'm putting up the white flag. We'll go to dinner somewhere on you, and that'll be that. Don't ever mention my name again. All right?
I love that he's trying to double down. Good for him, and he's gotten even crazier with the bet because, by all accounts, the Panthers should win this series, and if they're not, they should at least get a game. So he's.
But now he's making ridiculous demands. You know,
all in.
It's kind of like the in what was that, Dog Day Afternoon? You know, where the demands just keep ratcheting up, right? Pacino sees that he's completely screwed. He can't get out of this thing. Now I want a plane. I want it gassed up. I want this. I want that. And that's how Mayo is acting right now. He wants 10-1 odds. And it's like, Mike, just make a bet. If you think they're going to get swept, then good. Say they're going to get swept and put your money where your mouth is. No 10-1, no this, no that. I mean, otherwise, don't make ridiculous pronouncements like that in a sour, bitter reaction to the fact that he lost. Yeah, you know what's funny about that, too? Was he not so gracious in defeat?
He was
After
great.
all of this talk about this, how long have we been doing this? For like a month and a half.
A while now.
Yeah. Beating this thing to death. But, nobody. Does anybody care about our bet on the Panthers? No, nobody cares.
No one else
Only
cares.
we do.
Why would they?
But it radically enhanced my overall involvement in the series, and to the point where every second that ticked off the clock seemed to be of vital importance. Did it not? I mean, that really got interesting to watch from a lot of different aspects. It looked like the Panthers were on the ropes almost the entire time. They were never really in a commanding position in that series. Now, Tampa Bay and Toronto, I would think you would have to say that Tampa Bay faced a much more difficult assignment in beating the Toronto Maple Leafs, who were a very good team all season long, than the Panthers did in facing the Capitals, who eked their way in as the 8th seed. Even though, and if you looked at the point totals, they had about 100 points, I think. The Panthers had like $122. So if you're making a baseball equation, we talked about this, they were essentially 10, 11 games better than the Washington Capitals during the course of the regular season. And you would think that would have given them an edge. They have home ice advantage, which isn't that big of an edge in the NHL. And they managed to make their way through, but certainly was not in any kind of an overwhelmingly convincing fashion. Yet the 0 for 17, I believe it was the final tally on the power play. You would think that would have to reverse because their power play wasn't that ugly. They just didn't score any goals on it. Does that make any sense? I mean, it wasn't as if the power play that they exhibited in this series against the Washington Capitals was so pathetic that they never had any chances. They had like a zillion scoring chances. They just never put the puck in the net.
In the latter stages, it got better. I mean, early on, they had some pretty rough power plays, but the last couple of games, they were a lot more aggressive and they were a lot more on it. They just couldn't get past Samsonov. Samsonov, that's what's funny. In the end, the Capitals lost, but Samsonov had a great series.
Yeah,
the dude came in after a rough in the second game when the goalie had sort of lost his shit, and he sort of held down the fort and actually got them to a series lead, and it looked like they were going to win the series. So he was just tough to beat, especially on the power play. I don't know what it was, but the Panthers just couldn't knock one home. But they were way better. The last 2 games, they were much better on the power play. They just
it wasn't as if they brought the puck up and lost it after making a couple of dinky passes on the outside, and it went down the ice, and they had to get it back again. The guy stands behind the net for 20 seconds or ticking off the clock, and you're saying, "Go already, go! You're 5-on-4 for Christ's sake!"
Exactly.
It turned me into an insane man, this hockey series. I'm not sure I could take much more, but I do like, I mean, it never really, I guess, all of these different conversations that people have had. Here we originate from Florida on the show, and there was always, talk of, well, geez, are there any in-state rivalries? Like, I don't know that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dolphins,
now,
certainly the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Dolphins, or the Jacksonville Jaguars and Tampa Bay, don't represent any real heated rivalry in my estimation. I don't see that there at all. Maybe to the hillbillies up north, they get all excited when Jacksonville's playing Tampa Bay, but I don't feel any kind of passion, emanating from the whole prospect of facing a team in football that's from inside the state. Nobody cares about the Rays and the Marlins. Don't meet that often. When they do, really, you usually just concede the fact that the Rays somehow miraculously, with far worse circumstances than the Miami Marlins face with their new retractable dome stadium, which isn't even new anymore. And the fact that they have a much bigger population and a base here and are closer to Latin American countries that were supposed to fuel a lot of interest and exhibit a lot of interest in Major League Baseball. That was one of the principles that the team originally conceived was going to work for them. It never has. I do have to say, though, remember Alex Fernandez, how fat he was as a player, and then he ballooned up to like 400 pounds. He looked like Buster Douglas.
Yes.
Right before he went into that diabetic coma after winning the championship against Mike Tyson. They just had this 97 Marlins reunion.
5 year, yep.
And Alex Fernandez looks great, man. He lost like 200 pounds, this guy.
Was it really 200?
No, he was always like a good guy. I always liked Alex Fernandez. He seems like
he was a UM guy or South Florida guy. I was a huge fan.
Represents a lot of good things, about the area here, and seems to be a good ambassador for South Florida as a sporting entity. And he looked great. He really did at the 97 reunion. So that was good. Although, I don't know that that team, could really relate to all of these one-run losses that are being occurred by the Miami Marlins now, who are just about hanging like you would expect, right? Like that bug that's in a spider web that can't quite crawl its way up and get out of the whole mess. They just entangled in a web of unfortunate circumstances that they've created themselves and supposedly are swimming in a sea of red ink, the likes of which may drive, can you believe this, may drive the possibility that A-Rod will become an investor.
Yeah,
imagine that. Jeter exits. See, now that would be the ultimate, too. Jeter, Mr. Success, Mr. Quiet, did everything the right way, dignity and all of this, and class. And here's A-Rod, this cheating goofball, who just happens to have like a Midas touch with everything that he puts his hands on. What if he came in and became the savior for the Miami Marlins? That would be a story that was just wrought with inherent irony, that Jeter couldn't do it and left here kind of, I don't know, was that a cloud of shame? What was the deal? It was a very, very suspicious exit all of a sudden out of nowhere by Derek Jeter. What if A-Rod came in and replaced him? That would be awesome. All right, so we have the hockey thing set up for tomorrow night. No bets. All bets are off.
Done.
I'm
done betting. That was a lot.
Jessica Blaylock will help us analyze that. The word that really comes to mind, though, that pops in your head right away is what? Vasilevsky. And this guy was great. He stood on his head in that Game 7 against the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he was the main impetus in the Tampa Bay Lightning getting through that game. Vasilevsky was great against the Panthers last year. He had a couple of weak moments, but more or less was a differential in the series, which the Panthers lost 4-2, and they took a lot of satisfaction away from that. And the usual cliches applied. Well, you know what? We lost in the first round, but that was to the eventual Stanley Cup champions. Great. You still lost in the first round.
Yeah, you lost.
You're a bunch of schmucks. No disgrace for some of these teams, though. They got knocked out in the first round of the NHL playoffs. I mean, what a bloodbath this whole thing is.
Yeah, it's a joke.
It's crazy.
The way the East is.
All right, so many things happening. I mean, there were a zillion different things taking place, including the Heat then clinched their series finally against the Philadelphia 76ers, who, wow, I mean, you talk about the towel coming in from the corner. Did they throw in a towel in that Game 6? What on earth? This process is ground to a halt with the Philadelphia 76ers. And, wow, if ever a team need to just completely regroup and think through what it is that they're doing. James Harden, could he possibly command, what are they going to have to pay him, like $250 million for 5 years?
Well, it's
max deal if they re-sign him.
Stays in this, he's allowed to stay in this deal, and that's on $47 million, or he opts out, and he was supposed to, if he was James Harden, get 5 years, $270 million. Now the guy we saw is not getting that from anyone. Like no one.
No, I mean he may as well be Hawthorne Wingo out there. I mean, in terms of value to the team.
He had
disappeared again, in both games 5 and 6 after having that one hot fourth quarter and just intermittent greatness is all you get from this guy anymore.
And at this point, yep.
And it's more rare than it is, a consistent happening. It used to be amazing. You'd look at any box score, you'd see Harden's name, and there was like 38 points, 16 assists,
Yep.
9 rebounds, and night after night after night. And his team was winning when he was with the Houston Rockets.
Yes.
Since he's drifted around, it's been abysmal at best for James Harden, and he looked like a shell of what he was just a couple of years ago in this series against the Heat, at a time where a guy like that could take Chris Paul, same thing. All of a sudden, he's a shot fighter.
Nowhere.
Yeah, and it happens, right? You see it in boxing more often than in other sports. I don't know if this is going to bear out, all the way through the future, but can you imagine being an owner of a team? I don't care how much money you have. Like, would you pay $47 million for a dog, Lubie, no matter how much you love the dog?
Oh, no, you're talking to the wrong guy.
$47 million, right? You blow by, a place and you see a dog and you go, wow, that dog looks great, huh? How much is it? Yeah, you're figuring the guy's going to say, well, you know what? Sign the adoption papers here. 200 gets you out the door.
Yeah.
Dog.
Yep.
All right, which is fine, right? You're donating supposedly to some kind of society that's going to further and advance the possibility that these dogs will be spared and eventually find a good home, like my 2 dogs, Skippy and Holly, right? They're very happy here. Although, Holly fooled us a little bit that she was this, super friendly, exuberant puppy, and now, quite frankly, she's a bitch.
She hates everyone but you. I love that.
But I'm glad I'm taken care of. But I wouldn't have paid $47 million. I mean, if they said to me $47 million, as much as I love Skippy, I might have had to pass on that, no? So imagine you're the owner of the Philadelphia 76ers, and it's Harden's option whether he wants to come back or not for $47 million. I don't even think it has to be mutual. I think it's a player option. Who structured these contracts in the NBA? I mean, that is amazing, right? That a guy who just had a dog of a season and looked like absolute garbage in the postseason,
Yes,
and that's after forcing his way onto your team after just dumping on another team that had all kinds of great expectations because of the fact that he was on the roster, but just wasn't the same guy. Now, that was more the fault, I would say, of Kyrie Irving being a space cadet than it was of James Harden losing his greatness and his big edge that he had over other players in the NBA. But nonetheless, it looked pretty clear, did it not, that this guy, it's Jerry Quarry time, correct?
He shot.
Shot fighter, yeah. Put him out there. It's a name, but other than that, it's kind of going to be an easy win for the guy that's looking to find a way to force the champion's hand and get a fight with Muhammad Ali. That's pretty much what's happening. But he has the option, I believe, to come back to the 76ers for $47 million.
Yes. He was supposed to opt out because, again, you want the long-term deal, especially at his age. The way he was playing, if he was still good, it wasn't going to last long.
Who would give him that contract now after seeing this?
Now, no one. But going in, remember he had a nice stretch at the beginning with the Sixers, and it looked like he was motivated again. Remember last year,
he looked good.
First half, where he showed he could be a different Harden. He was going to get 5 years, 270. Like, it was an automatic.
270, I think, is what he weighs right now.
Yeah, well, that's the thing.
Yeah, I mean, he's become Oliver Miller only in the backcourt.
He doesn't give a shit. Well, look, that's the thing. It's not even that he didn't play well in the playoffs, which we've seen. He only shot 2 shots in the whole second half of that. Like, it's an elimination game. The latest process is on the table, and he only shot, and Embiid's dying. Embiid literally, for the last 2 games, was holding his back the whole series, and he's trying. He's out there. He's bleeding. He's sweating. And Harden's like, dude only had 2 shots. Like, not that he made them. He only put up 2 shots when their team couldn't hit the side of a barn.
This is an arcane reference here, but watching Embiid, and this was before your time, it reminded me of the actor Walter Brennan in the show The Real McCoys, where he just was like slumped over the entire time, and every time he made a move, it was with a limp, and he was holding the side of his back there. I mean, Chester from Gunsmoke with even more chronic back problems. That was Joel Embiid in the series. Doc Rivers gets a free pass. He comes back and, believe it or not, is highly coveted supposedly by the Los Angeles Lakers. They're disappointed that Rivers is going to be getting a nod and returning to the Philadelphia 76ers. But the Heat, they did what they had to, obviously. Another cliche there, if I can throw one out there.
That's fine.
They finished it off, and they looked impressive in the last couple of games. They dominated the Philadelphia 76ers, something you were expecting a little bit more of in the series. You thought, okay, Philly with Embiid back, they can win one game. Those were two ugly games in Philadelphia, but Lubie, and this was the big question that was being asked on social media and in various sports circles. If you were the Miami Heat, would you rather tangle with the Milwaukee Bucks, who lost a Game 7, got blown out by the Boston Celtics yesterday, or would you rather face the Celtics, who, as we were saying, we picked up on this sort of at the midway point of the season, right around the All-Star game. All of a sudden, the Celtics were playing great.
Yep.
And, it's not like we noticed it first, but you couldn't help but see that something was happening there. And they still got pressed to 7 games by Milwaukee, who was a vastly superior opponent with Antetokounmpo than Philadelphia was with Embiid, despite Embiid's brilliant season leading up to the postseason.
It wasn't himself.
So what would you say? Now, most people would say that they'd rather not see Giannis Antetokounmpo, especially he of the 4 changes of pivot feet during the course of executing a layup. How are you supposed to defend that without fouling? I mean, honestly, referees really need to take a look at the floor once in a while.
Well, that's what's
and watch what this guy's doing.
Well, that's what is interesting. Like, people have hailed him. You know, he's the best in the world now. Which
he is great. I mean, it's fun to watch. He is a very determined, great, talented player. But my God, if you give a guy 5 steps to the basket, I don't know that I could score in the NBA, but you hit it on the head earlier before the show. I mean, it's like the little kid that gets the ball in half court and runs all the way to the basket and then puts up an underhanded layup.
It's what it looks like when he gets
without a single bounce of the ball. It's worse on the inside, though, when he starts making all these dipsy doodle moves, where he's back and forth and doing all this shake and bake stuff. And you're watching this guy's feet, and he really does. He looks like Len Goodman lecturing some, rapper about how to do the cha-cha.
And he never dribbles. Like, that's what's great is he'll grab a rebound and not put it right back up, but somehow be on the other side of the hoop without dribbling and then dunk it. And it's like, how did he get there without dribbling?
It's crazy, yeah. Well, I mean, I mentioned this guy before because I used to play a lot of 3-on-3, 4-on-4, even some full court basketball, but it's mostly half court. When I lived in Miramar here, and I was in my 30s, just started the family there. The Jess man was just born. Used to go out and play basketball every night, and there was a guy named David Glazer who, in these 2-on-2 and 3-on-3 games. You might end up guarding from time to time in the low post. Now, he wasn't a bad basketball player. He wasn't great, but he wasn't bad. But he would change pivot feet half a dozen times. Then hit you in the chest with an elbow, put up a hook shot that missed, and call a foul on you. And you're like, Dave, I mean, never mind the half a dozen traveling incidents that led up to that shot. And the elbow to the chin. I mean, how could you have the nerve to possibly say, I got it? But you can't defend that. I mean, if a guy's just going to change pivot feet with impunity and be able to get away with it for the entire ball game because the refs never look at the guy's feet, impossible to stop. So that might have been a real problem for the Miami Heat, who don't necessarily, I mean, Bam Adebayo's on the all defensive team. It seems like year after year he's a candidate, or they're screaming that he should have been the defensive player of the year, or among and he is a guy that gets consideration. But I don't think he can defend Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, that would have been a blatant mismatch, would it not?
Well, I think what you would have done is just thrown a lot of bodies at him.
Deadman at him, and some of these other guys.
Throwing a lot of guys at him. I mean, look, they showed what I said 2 years ago. And I was sort of proven wrong because Middleton has become a legit number 2 for a team that won a title. But everyone else is in. And they lost P.J. Tucker, who was a huge part of that team. Gave them a lot of toughness. They wouldn't have lost like that versus the Celtics the last 2 games if they have a P.J. Tucker on their team. And they lost a couple other guys. So they're just not as deep as they were. And that was a big part of their winning. And Drew Holiday had a really good series at the end of last year because he could be the third guy. Without Middleton, they eventually ran dry. And that was the thing is, people are like, well, who would you rather? You don't want to face Giannis. I'm like, yes, I do. The Bucks without Middleton, I would much rather face the Bucks without Middleton than a fully healthy Celtics team. The Celtics are literally the Heat, not a little better defensively and a little less deep. So, like, it's hard to beat your own style a lot of the time. So I'd rather face the Bucks team, which is, look what they did. Giannis was great the first quarter, and then the rest of the game, he still can't shoot a 3, and he still can't shoot middle. So go Giannis, run around like an asshole, and let's see if anyone else can beat us. And that's what they did with the Suns, the Mavs. They're like, look, We don't care what Paul and Ayton and Cameron Payne and Cameron Johnson do. You're not going to beat us, Booker. And he didn't. We're like, Giannis, we don't care what the hell you do. No one else is going to beat us. And they got demolished. Like, the Celtics don't play that way. Like, Marcus Smart will come out of nowhere with fucking 25. And, like, they're very much like the Heat, where your star can
Well,
be...
this guy Williams yesterday hit 7 threes like he was Rex
Exactly.
Chapman against the Bulls. Incredible.
That's the thing. Like,
No, I like the Celtics
one
team.
time.
I obviously it's going to be you would think highly contentious all the way through. I don't know what the season record was, but the Celtics early in the year were not very good, and they rounded into form. And the way they rebounded in this series, they were down 3-2, went to Milwaukee and won.
Yep.
And they had blown that game 5 and
Yep.
found themselves in a real predicament, but managed to gather themselves and win in Milwaukee and then blow out City yesterday with an amazing performance all the way around. Red hot shooting performance. Jason Tatum is getting salutes from all of the even most cynical observers of basketball, saying, the guy's a legit superstar at this point, or darn close to it. And they made a real attempt to work in synchronization. So sort of, I mean, a mirror image in some ways of the Miami Heat, maybe with a little bit better talent all the way around at the top level, especially if your guy Tyler Hero is not up to par.
Well,
which he hasn't been.
The Heat don't have Lowry, and whenever he comes back, he's not himself. And he was supposed to be a big part of this playoff run. Bam and Hero are supposed to be the 2 and 3, and they're inconsistent. Butler was the best player in the playoffs this year. I mean, Giannis was the only one close, and Giannis hasn't done it. Like, Butler's been great every game, but he doesn't have a number 2. Like the Celtics, between Brown and Tatum, you get them every night, but the Celtics don't go like 11 deep. Like the Heat were bringing out Yurt 7 in that last game, and he played well, and Strus woke up, and so that's the little difference in these two teams. But they should go head to head. It should be a freaking war, which, as a fan, I'm not really excited about.
Heat 2-point favorites at home. Very low accord of points there. 2-point favorites at home against the Celtics. And both of those teams will be in action, the local teams here in South Florida, tomorrow night. So that's going to make for some interesting use of the remote here. Thank goodness for texting, right? Because now you're able to switch the remote up and go back and forth. I think that one needs to be, the Tuesday night. Need to make plans to go to some sports bars somewhere.
You can see both
and watch both games.
I hate that they did that. Like, a lot of South Floridians were complaining, and of course NHL wasn't going to hear it. But like in a head-to-head Panthers Heat same night, especially around the same time, no one's watching the Panthers. Like, there's got to be a way they could have made a Wednesday. Done something different. Like, that made no sense to have the Panthers the same. You can pick your schedule if you're the NHL. Like, I don't understand that at all. And Batman has come out saying, "Oh, I care about the South Florida market. We care." No, you don't. You don't care. You openly prove it.
They wrote me in. I mean, there's no way that I'm going to not watch this Tampa Bay Lightning series. And as I started to say before, when there were no real rivalries, that might be the only one that actually has its roots in some sinister and evil. That the Lightning and the Florida Panthers do not care for each other. That may be true of all hockey teams after watching the playoffs, right? I mean, these guys aren't afraid to just start knocking the crap out of their own teammates. I mean, it's fantastic. 100%. Teeth are flying all over the place. So, Jessica Blaylock will talk with us about that Panther series against the Lightning, and also a recap of what happened in this first series against the Capitals and where they're at. She's been following the team all season with Bally Sports Florida, so very much looking forward to having the lovely Jessica Blaylock on the show later on. The weekend was full of so many different things, though, Lubie, and wow, this upcoming weekend and the build-up to it is going to be even more insane. You couldn't ask for more in terms of a sports smorgasbord of all great and riveting events than you will find this week leading into the upcoming weekend, where for the horse racing degenerate, you have the second leg of the Triple Crown of Preakness, which looms as wide open an event as the Kentucky Derby, where they slipped a horse in by helicopter in the stretch, dropped him in 5 lengths in front, and whoosh, all of a sudden, Rich Strike wins and then mysteriously disappears, fueling speculation that there's much more in play here.
Yeah.
And that Rich Strike was the fastest horse in the race in the Kentucky Derby.
We don't want to hurt him. It's too weak, blah, 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 blah. It's like, guys, like that's fucking weird.
How long does it take to, get sublimates out of a horse's system or whatever he was running on that day?
It's like, I mean.
Horse comes back with his eyeballs, looking like Marty Feldman.
Like
jockey that you never heard of. His next mount was at Belterra Park. I
Exactly.
couldn't even tell you where Belterra Park is. Me, Mr. Degenerate.
He goes back to doing
I
great.
make horse noises as I snore. Was out there getting clobbered yesterday at the local parimutuel facility, and it didn't even bother me. It was just like, yeah, what a great day. Because as I was passing by, now I walk my dog by a church that's right next door to the property that we live on here. And so, yeah, he was in the church parking lot. And I don't know. I mean, it's not like there's a large dedication to the Judeo-Christian principles here in the Deforrest household. I would say, yeah, I mean, I respect whatever it is that you believe and you want to do. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping you guys are right, that are super religious, that there is some place called heaven and that there's a casino up there. And I'll be able to run into all of you guys again that I've been hanging out with at the track for my entire life. That'd be great. But I'm not necessarily counting on that. Are you, Lubie? I mean, I think that's it, right?
On it. Yeah, I'm open-ended on it.
You're like that squished iguana on the road, that you walk by, and as you do, like a zillion flies go jumping off. And you're thinking, where did these flies come from? I've never seen flies that look so hideous. These carnivore flies that they're, all over a dead body. But I think it's much more inglorious like that.
I tend to leave. The older I get, the more I question and less I believe. But I do think that.
Well, where do these ideas come from? Except a bunch of scared people that don't want to die. Who wants this to end? I don't. Do you?
I don't at all. So that's what I hope that we all realize while we're here, let's make the best of this. And if there's something later, wonderful. And if not,
this feels great. It's fantastic, even at my ripe old age. I mean, as the clock is running, I'm on borrowed time here. But you know what? I haven't necessarily, and a lot of people do this, right? When there's a problem, all of a sudden, a guy gets some disease that appears to be bordering on, if not terminal, and all of a sudden, guys in prison, right? They turn to God all the time, and you know what? I was a lousy guy, and now I'm going to be a good guy. Just let me out of here. But I was thinking, my Sundays are I mean, my religious practice is gambling and drinking. What's better than that? So even taking a beating there at the track, it was still fun. And then came home, I couldn't believe how many different riveting sporting events were on the tube. Now, coming up this week, you have the Preakness, and Rich Strike is not going to run. That fueled a lot of speculation and talk. I don't know who's in the field. Usually it's a reduced field from the Kentucky Derby, which runs 20 horses. They don't even have that many spots in the gate for the Preakness. I don't believe so anyway. I don't know if they ever run more than 20. Possible. I don't want to make a bunch of bogus statements here, but a different kind of race. The track configuration, tighter turns. They always talk about it. They only go 1 mile and 3/16, which is 16th of a mile less than the Kentucky Derby. So you see, it's a speed favoring track over the years, and horses that normally would love to be on the outside of the Kentucky Derby, they want to be on the inside at Pimlico. And they're not afraid to put over any kind of circus-like result at Pimlico. For some reason, Baltimore racing might be as crooked as the harness racing was at Yonkers back in the day when Carmine, the Big Red, was stiffing horses. How come his name is always the one that comes up in any harness racing conversation? Carmine Abatello.
I don't know. You bring him up.
I'm walking around the other day. I mean, with my friend, our friend Big Rich, right? And, I don't know that Big Rich was much of a harness racing fan. He only recently became a horse racing fan. And I would have to say he's dove in with both feet. Big feet, too, man. He'll go from one track to another. So we're walking out of what used to be Pompano Park, and I said, wow, can you believe this place is going to get torn down? What a legacy they had. This was like the Yankee Stadium of harness racing, and certainly the biggest facility of its type anywhere south of New York, where harness racing was pretty big at the time. And who's the first guy he brings up? He says, yeah, you know what? And everybody has somebody, a cousin or something, that knew Carmine Abatello.
Oh, really? That's fine.
This guy was the most well-known, popular guy. I mean, he had more fans than Elton John around the world. It's amazing. Some harness racing driver who stiffed horses and actually was convicted, I believe, of race fixing, and then somehow made his way into the Hall of Fame. That's the best, right? You were fixing games. You're like shoeless Joe Jackson.
Only in boxing and horse racing.
Boxing and horse racing, yeah. Like, is Panama Lewis in the Hall of Fame?
You can clearly do
He
illegal
nearly got a
shit
guy
and travel,
killed.
and then still get in.
What stuffing in the gloves? I don't know where it went. Nice, Panama. Give me the bottle I mixed. That's always good. All right, so you have that. You have the PGA tournament coming up, and wow, I mean, good golf for all of its sanctimonious approach and high and mighty kind of vibe that they give off. Golf, right? I mean, you're almost afraid to talk to a player that you know to be very friendly if you're out there at a golf tournament, right? I mean, like even Freddie Couples is walking up the fairway, and you're almost afraid as a fan to say, "Hey, Freddie," because Steve Williams might be his caddy that day and just chuck a driver right at your face. It's possible. I don't know. I mean, for all of this, haughty-tawny, vibe that they give off on the PGA, could they have any more like Housewives of Beverly Hills type of turmoil going on in the sport right now? With Greg Norman, I don't know. How do you feel about this, Lubie? I'm not quick to condemn somebody for saying something, and then like everything that the guy did, you just throw it right out the door because the guy made like one stupid statement. But Greg Norman's not making any friends when they ask him about this Khashoggi. He's the head guy now. He's spearheading in the face of this Saudi golf tour, which is drawing nothing but wrath. I mean, the PGA wants nothing to do with this. They don't want to know about it. They don't have to start paying these guys like enormous appearance fees. I'm not sure what the deal is now, but does the PGA? I'm assuming the PGA is not paying Tiger Woods to show up and play in the PGA tournament that's coming up this week, right? Whereas if he's playing on the Saudi tour, they're giving Tiger $20 million for showing up. They ride him in on a camel. I mean, whatever it is. I could get in trouble for that, huh? But Norman, they ask him, how can you represent this stuff? We were talking about it last week a little bit, this whole concept of sports washing. Why is Vladimir Putin staging Winter Olympics to the tune of like $80 billion in losses? Because it's like, oh, look at that. Russia, yeah, they're okay. Look, they're having fun over there. All of these screaming boycotts don't seem to have any impact on the kind of people that are running these shows. In Russia's case, Putin, and in this case, whoever the sheik is at the time. I don't know. But they ask Norman about this and all of the human atrocities that take place there, and he says, oh, no, they're doing fine. And his defense was, we all make mistakes.
Oh, God.
Like, okay, it's okay to just whack a guy and dismember the body.
There's different
Some
levels
guy,
of
and it's just a reporter for like, a newspaper, for God's sake. Well, who cares about some ink-stained wretch if you're the sheik and you're in control of like $800 zillion?
Well, that's the thing is it's always the same kind of people that they do this to. That they should not be worried about, but for some reason they are. What does that tell you? Like, if this is the person that they're chopping heads off and then pretending like they didn't or just moving on and acting like it never happened, then there's a reason for it. I do find it funny when they always try to just play it off, and then everyone around them who yells about everything else, it's like, oh, it's not it. I mean, come on.
It's not good for Greg Norman to shrug that off lightly and by saying, don't address it at all, but don't come back with, well, we all make mistakes. It's sad to be laughing about that, because
what did I say about him then? What the hell are you doing in your spare time, Greg? I made a lot of mistakes.
I always liked Greg Norman. I felt badly, when that Larry Mize putt went in there, right? That was unbelievable. 56-footer, remember that? Twisting, turning all over the place. What was that, 15 at the Masters or something? Not sure what hole it was. Might have been 17. Anyway, Norman gets screwed again out of winning a major championship. And it happened to him many, many times. I remember a guy named Bob Tway.
Yeah,
Bob Tway. Yeah. It might have been in a PGA or a U.S. Open. I want to say a PGA tournament. Holes out of a sand trap to eclipse Norman's lead right at the end of the tournament there on like the 72nd hole. And once again, Norman is like blown away with another devastating and probable loss. Then he choked a number of times. He had that final round in a major that he was leading by like 28 shots, and he shoots 106. Greg, is this your ball? Like there was that collapse when he was like an old fart in the British Open. When that was when he was dating Chris Evert, right?
Yep.
And poor Chrissy, I mean, with all the dignity and class in the world, and just a person that everybody has loved her entire life from the time she was a teenager. We came to know her on the tennis scene, and she's always seemed to be a delightful person that conducted herself in a very gracious way, dignified manner. And, he's giving her a look like she's schlepping through rain and sleet in those British novel type conditions that you get when they're over there on these hideous looking links courses that I would favor, I think, because they're the only place where a grounder is actually a good
I was
shot.
going to say it would be fine for me. I would have to change nothing about my game.
Exactly, man. I mean, every time I would take a golf club out and hit a drive that was, one of those ground skimmers, and you're thinking, there's a two-hopper to short. And, you would look out like Arnie Palmer as if the ball was traveling in the air, but then you're very happy. Well, look at that. It's still out there like 250, all on the ground. That's a good shot at the British Open. But, Norman didn't endear himself to anybody. It did seem like it was a little bit of a Lance Armstrong, Sheryl Crow type of thing. Where,
Yes, I was going to say. It was like this famous woman, but he sort of just was like, eh.
Like, who cares that she was more accomplished in her sport than I was in mine?
Yeah, exactly.
And is adored by millions, yeah.
Norman was.
I always liked Greg Norman. I know. I always say seemed like a very affable, outgoing type of guy, and fairly honest. But we all make mistakes. Isn't going to fly. So the PGA immersed in all kinds of controversy. And then what's up with Phil? Man, Phil doesn't want to play. He's the defending champion. He put his name. He etched it even further into golf legend. But when he won the PGA Championship last year at, I believe he had just turned 50. He should have been on the Champions Tour there, seeing if Chichi Rodriguez, was going to shoot an 87 on the final day and open the door for him to come and win a championship at 50 years old. And instead he wins the PGA, almost impossible. Oldest guy ever to win a major championship, Phil Mickelson. Very popular guy, in spite of the fact that he might be an even sicker degenerate than any of our followers on Degenerate Friday.
He is.
Now, he has the wealth to do it. Now, if you're making $40 million a year, does it matter if you lose $40 million across 4 years? I mean, could you afford to lose 1 year of your salary every 4 years? Lubie, gambling, like on
I know
nonsense.
Should he be able to? Yes, but you're thinking if he's losing that much money on gambling, what are his monthly expenses? Like those people usually live really high.
Oh, he was living high on the hog, as they say.
That's the thing. Like if you're losing a quarter of your money every year, because that's what it works out to,
and it's $4 million.
That's just on gambling. What about your houses?
Well, gambling. I was sick.
I mean, no one can afford to lose money like that.
Me and my baby and this old mangy dog.
That's why he's going to Saudi Arabia.
Living high on the hog, my friend. High on the hog. That's Tommy Castro special. All right, so you have that, the PGA, with all this drama now. Where's Phil? Phil, is he suspended? Nobody knows what's going on. This is great. No regime like the PGA in all of sports. I mean, even the World Boxing Council is more transparent than the Professional Golfers Association, a 501c charitable. We don't pay any taxes on nothing.
Yeah, okay.
We're giving all this money away. And they do, I guess, a marvelous job of generating funds for charities. But it's not as if the commissioner isn't making money himself. And then there's a president, and then there's there are like a lot of closet executives in this organization, it turns out, and none of them are happy. And the guy finally, I guess, the president of the PGA, whose name escapes me, and it's not that Monahan is like the commissioner now, right? Or Moynihan, I believe it's Monahan is the commissioner of the PGA, and then the president of the PGA, it's like a separate organization somehow. I mean, it's like the NCAA still ruling over college football. Like, who cares what these guys have to say? Nobody.
Okay, so the commissioner you got right is Monahan. The president's Jim Richardson.
Okay, could be. I don't know. Trying to think, trying to flash back to when I was reading that article and see if I can envision the name. But this guy went on some podcast and started popping off about how, well, Phil's suspended, man. All he's got to do is apologize. He's going to have to face the scrutiny in the media because now he had made comments that compared to what Norman was saying, like reading a Khalil Gibran book in front of people. I mean, just talking about finding your inner sanctuary and all this stuff.
America. I can't wait to be there. It's like, okay, Phil.
Yeah, put a turban on your head, start smoking some weed, and playing like a little recorder as a snake comes out of a basket. That type of. I mean, by comparison, you couldn't have had, a bigger differential, and yet, I mean, is he suspended or what? Does anybody know? Nobody knows.
It's like
Phil's not saying nothing. That reporter he talked to that broke all of this stuff, this conversation, was writing an unauthorized biography, it turns out. Can you imagine that? I don't think Phil will ever speak to this man under any circumstances ever again. He's buried Phil Mickelson. Buried him. But he's not playing, so you have all that going on. And the dynamic then of the golfers that wanted to play on this Saudi tour, which the PGA wouldn't let them. I mean, this is going to be a mess for Jim Nantz to ignore all of the issues
Oh,
that are
yes.
flaring up. Yeah.
They won't mention it at all.
And only talk about Tiger Woods, who looks like he's going to play in this thing.
I guess.
And they're saying he's like stronger than ever. He looks like Schwarzenegger now that he's been just fiercely working out ever since this embarrassment of the second couple of rounds there of the Masters, which I don't know if you could call it an embarrassment. That's unfair.
He made the cut him more than I thought.
Yeah, but if he shot the first two rounds instead as the second two rounds that he put together like a pair of 87s or whatever that was, I mean, imagine if that was his performance.
Oh, yeah. He ran land
He'd
base.
be writing his epitaph. Never mind, looking for his entry form for the PGA. So that's on the horizon as well. And then you have the French Open coming up in tennis, which this Rome tournament was spectacular. Guess who's back, Lubie? Guess who's back on form?
Federer.
The Joker. The Joker. He's back on form. He was struggling a little bit when he first came back. He was like losing in the first round, always losing the first set. And now he's come back, roaring back there, and a couple of good performances in a row. He wins the sort of prelude tournament, which Carlos Alcaraz was not in this. He's resting up. So those two guys are like, short-priced favorites. I think Djokovic is a slight favorite to win the tournament. Alcaraz is only 2-1 to win the French Open. Can you believe that, man?
That's crazy.
That's with Rafa Nadal in the field, although Rafa looks like it's all starting to catch up with him a little bit. He looks like Dwayne Wade during that period when everybody was saying, "Yeah, you know what? When you go to the floor that many times, got to catch up with him." I did want to finally, to conclude this. Wow, it's been like an hour long. It was just many, many things. I mean, the Reds, the worst team in baseball, found a way to lose when their guy pitched a no-hitter.
Yeah, okay. I didn't understand that. I saw the updates about that, but I didn't understand it.
They lost the game because he walked a couple of guys, and they got a run on a fielder's choice.
Okay.
And they gave up a run, and this guy pitched like 7 1/3 of no-hit ball, and then the reliever came on and finished off the other 2/3 without allowing a hit.
So they went the entire game without allowing a hit and lost.
Right, and it doesn't qualify as a no-hitter because they didn't pitch the ninth inning because in this case they were on the road and the home team, the Pirates, didn't need to come to the plate. But, I mean, when you're having a bad season, that's when you lose a no-hitter. I mean,
yes, that's bad.
It's not unprecedented. Guys have lost no-hitters before, or teams have lost games in which they didn't give up any hits. But this was ugly. I mean, for a team, the last time I checked the standings, they might have won a couple since then. They were like 3-21 to start the season. It was like that year Frank Robinson was coaching or managing the Baltimore Orioles. Remember that? And they started like 0-20. Yes. And, here's a great Frank Robinson. And you're like, oh, my God, what kind of an embarrassment. But this one, I really blew it this weekend. And there was an opportunity there for all of you sickos that like to bet on games like us to make a major score because I'm watching SportsCenter. And they have a big tease on the bottom of the screen, much like we do here, saying, hey, Twitter on the Defo Show. So the crawl comes up, and it says, Stephen A. coming up, and he feels Dallas is going to get blown out of Game 7. Right?
Couldn't have been more wrong.
And then with pure Phineas T. bluster, as always, the guy goes on the show there with Greenberg and Kendrick Perkins, who all of a sudden is this dynamic personality.
Says nothing.
He's more likable than Stephen A. Smith is, although I appreciate what Stephen A. Smith does to make $12 million a year.
Yelling.
Just for, being dead wrong. Now, I doubt you will see any accountability on this. You're not going to see these clips ever again. Those tapes were burned.
No, that's what they want from him is to be loud. So the only way you can get that is if it's okay to be loud and be wrong. If they annoyed.
And dead wrong. I mean, like dead wrong. You couldn't be any more wrong about this.
Oh, but he's like that a lot. That's the thing with being. Look, you in this biz, you have to have an opinion. That's fine, but like to have
it's hard to have it with that kind of
everything.
certainty that this is going to be a blowout.
About every single thing, every sporting event, every game, and every sporting. Like if you have that strong of opinion on everything, you're going to be wrong way more than you're right.
Yeah.
The only way you can do that is to not have it thrown in your face. If you have it thrown in your face, you're going to start hedging and you're going to start going, listen, guys, I can't.
I mean, how stupid do you look? You're screaming. He's screaming at the camera and keeps interrupting Perkins, who's trying to say something. And he's like, keeps coming back to, it's a blowout. It's a blowout. It's a blowout.
Okay.
It was like that time he was screaming at Teddy Atlas. I forget who got screwed. It might have been Golovkin screwed in a Canelo fight or something. No, it was worse than that. It was one of the most blatant, bad decisions. That's hard to say. I mean, that encompasses a lot of fights in boxing history. And Stephen A. and Teddy Atlas staged a scream off after the fight. One guy trying to out-scream the other about how screwed up the judging was. But he was screaming the top of his lungs that Dallas was going to get blown out.
Yeah, well.
And I tuned in the game there, and I was thinking, wow, how stupid am I not to make a move on that?
Exactly. Once he did that, should have gone all in on Dallas.
I mean, you were getting probably a decent price on the money line because the Phoenix Suns were favored by 6 and a hook in that game at home, and they end up losing by like 50. Unbelievable. And all you had to know was that Stephen A. Smith was they made a whole big deal about this, a half hour of Stephen A. Smith screaming about how Dallas was going to get blown out in that ballgame. And, I don't know that you could have sent that with any certainty. I would have expected Phoenix to win. I don't know if I would have laid the 6 and a hook because they had just looked so poor in the game before, but you thought they might rebound. We did not realize, though, and he is a wicked man, Lubie, a wicked man. Could it be Father Time?
Oh, yeah, with Paul.
That took care of Chris Paul all of a sudden? I mean, he got hit with a haymaker?
It was weird.
I mentioned it earlier. I started to anyway. You'll see fighters from one fight to the next. All of a sudden, they're done. A guy is in there. He's in some kind of war, and you're thinking he's going to be able to provide more of the same. But, he has one more fight, gives a very poor account of himself, and then maybe fights again 3 years later in some armory in New Jersey, to get one more paycheck, and then finally throws in the towel in his career. But from one fight to the next, you'll see a transition. You see it sometimes with racehorses also. Any athlete. Although you didn't expect this of Chris Paul now because he looked so great earlier in the postseason.
Yeah, well, you saw with Allen Iverson because the way he played, but like you don't expect it with Paul. Paul hasn't been like a guy who's rough and tumble. Like he's actually that's been his thing. He's playing really smart, and he's played well these playoffs. In this series, it was two totally different Chris Pauls. I don't know. Maybe they defended him differently. I don't know what they did, but he just he played really well in the last 3 games was not good. Ugh, they needed
Jason Kidd, man, he rebounds the Dallas Mavericks from down 2-0. So probably deserves a little credit. Was usually, looked at in a sort of a disparaging way as a head coach. I don't know that he ever got any great credit for being, a terrific head coach, Jason Kidd. Most people remember, what was it? Jomama was the wife's name?
Jumana Kid. That's you. No one remembers Jumana Kid. You remember Jumana Kid.
It would be hard to do your job. I've had this happen where I was like, leaving for work, and there was a little discord in the relationship at the time. And, you're going out to do some kind of entertaining performance, talking about the sporting world, make people laugh maybe on their way to work. As, somebody is suggesting that maybe you're the lowest form of lying scumbag that she's ever known in her life. So imagine having that happen while you're at work.
Yes, she would yell it from the sidelines.
From the sidelines with the kid, the fat kid. I don't like to make fun of a kid, but the kid
mustache. He had a full mustache.
Yeah, it was like 7 years old. Looked like Barney Miller. I mean, you're like. Anyway, all right. Hialeah Park, great place. I wish I was punching away there yesterday because I didn't have much success where I was, and I would have enjoyed. All of these places are fairly pleasant. I mean, it's not like a casino is ever a bad place to be. So, and what's great, though, when you go to Hialeah Park, you really see the difference in the idea that they care about the customer that's in there, which is fantastic. I mean, you do feel like you're getting special treatment, do you not? Mike Lubitz when you walk into Hialeah Park.
Yeah, and I notice they do treat everyone like that, which I'm like, good for them. Everyone gets that treatment.
My suggestion, too, would be to, like, as soon as you walk in the onto the grounds there. You get out of your car, even if you're valet parking. But I like to park there by the old clubhouse,
Yep.
which is much more convenient to the Champions simulcasting room. It's on that side of the building. But nonetheless, even if I'm going to the casino, I'm parking in that parking lot, which is a great, great place. They got plenty of room there. But my suggestion would be, just either go to the backstretch, which you would have to if you were going to walk your way into the casino, or go out to the actual track itself and just inhale it, man. It's
Yeah.
such a great place. I mean, and feel that serenity for the moment before you get into the whole anxiety that goes along with. Let's see, I'm stuck 120. If I bet 40 on this horse, how much sugar is the math that you have to do to be a degenerate? By the way,
I don't do it. That's why
I mean, and it's constant,
I
right?
don't have you all.
You know how much money is in your wallet, and you realize, man, I can't believe I got stuck for 2.5 yesterday. Unbelievable. I should have walked out and you're a winner. But you will feel like a winner when you go into Hialeah Park, and then you have every opportunity to win, including the Mustangs' last trip, which for some reason she always has success there. It's pretty consistent.
Nice.
And you see people winning jackpots all the time. Steve Calabro, really one of the finest guys in the gaming industry and well respected all throughout the gaming universe. As Hialeah Park's casino, just operating at maximum possible opportunity and level for the players. And then you have the poker room. That's always great. Great place to watch these games also, play a little cards. Maybe you're in the casino. I like to be in a champion simulcasting room. They have the games up on the TVs as well. But imagine, that'd be a good thing. I'm hoping maybe Frankie throws some kind of watch party for the heat of the Panthers. Especially, are they going to play throughout the playoffs on the same nights?
I hope that
Is it like Tuesday and Thursday? I didn't look at the schedule yet.
It's Tuesday, Thursday right now. I'm hoping when the Heat change cities and take an extra day, the Panthers don't.
Yeah.
I don't know what the hell they're doing. Because that would be really cool to go to Hialeah Park and immerse in one of the series. To have to do both is going to be really stressful.
You're more into the basketball. At this point, I'm kind of more into the hockey, although I think this basketball series is going to be terrific. I really do.
I've been into both. That's what's annoying.
Two really good teams.
I've been watching the Panthers every time they played, no matter what basketball game was opposite them. But to pick the Panthers over the Heat's tough. I don't know. I don't know. That's annoying.
Marcus Smart, he's my key guy there, right? I mean, you're going to get, Brown's going to have points, and obviously Jason Tatum, and you're figuring Jimmy Butler. Does Smart start to try and smother Jimmy Butler? Is that a matchup that you could foresee? I'm sounding like Scoop Skolnick now, but
I know you're breaking it down.
Yeah. No, but he's always coming up with clever defensive plays, and the Celtics are a much better defensive team by far than Atlanta, and much better than Philadelphia also.
They're the best defensive team in basketball.
Yeah.
This literally will be the best defensive team against a team that was really good defensively by the end of the year. That's what this matchup is. It should be old school.
All right. Well, speaking of old school, I mean, wouldn't Hialeah Park be a great place to take in all of these playoff games? So look forward to that. You have a couple of cocktails at the bar there, Brass Rail Bar, terrific, and very reasonably priced. When you were buying drinks for everybody at the bar, Lubie, I bet the tab was kind of gentle.
Yeah,
that was very nice of you, Lubie. Very nice.
I offered. I'm not stupid. Okay.
I asked Frankie. I hope they have another boxing event coming up soon. I can't wait to get back down there. That was great. What a great night. Everything they do there is first class. It's been that way since the very beginning. Since I first walked through the doors there, I've told you many, many times. Just absolutely fell in love with the place. Still love it as much today, maybe even more, because got to know the people, and I feel like I'm part of the family there at Hialeah Park. You will too. Get a player's card when you come through the door. All kinds of freebies, amenities attached with that. It's a great place to go to unwind, to release all kinds of anxiety, to maybe even seek a small fortune. It's beautiful, Hialeah Park. All right, we're coming back with more. Jessica Blaylock, Bally Sports Florida, and outstanding analyst is going to join us. She works both the Panthers and the Marlins beats, although she's been all over this Panther series against the Washington Capitals, and I would imagine going to stay zeroed in there. I don't know if they switch it around, right? Because they got Minnie also working baseball and hockey as well. Interesting dynamic, though, and nobody more in tune with what's going on. I mean, we have our good friend Steve Goldstein and Minnie and Randy Moeller, but Jessica Blaylock, one of the really fine reporters and in-game reporters between periods, in this case in hockey, hosts that you'll find. So she's going to join us. Now, is she going to do video, or is it too early in the morning? No video.
She stays late night, either working or covering paying attention to the other games. So she, in the morning, is doing us favors by getting up early, because she usually doesn't have to work till a little bit later in the day.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know. Did they get a day off? I would think not.
Yeah. Well, no, that's the thing is that even if she wasn't working officially, like she has to track all the series because when you're talking Panthers playoffs, you don't just talk Panthers. Like you're talking about every other series because they all are interconnected. So she's working even when she's just like us. Like when we try to say we're working and we watching the games, she actually is working.
Yeah.
Watching the games.
Vasilevsky, man, it scares me. Vasilevsky.
A great deal.
No, you would have to think that he outplays Bobrovsky and gives the Tampa Bay Lightning a. Well, we'll get into it. We've been yapping for a long time here. Going to come back with more. Glad you guys are tuned in. Nice to hear from the people on the chat lines. It looks like Andy's okay.
Seems like he's still.
The over/under of Sunday and a hook. We're halfway home on a Monday. No, we love Andy, and we hope he's okay. It sounds like it. He certainly is in good form in terms of the sharp commentary. And I saw another gentleman that we should say hello to here.
Mark
came in, weighed in earlier this morning. Yeah. Very nice, Mark. Thanks for tuning into the program here. And we'll come back with more. Jessica Blaylock coming up in about 15 minutes here on the show. So we'll dive further into this whole NHL playoff that's going on. Sensational all the way around. Gary Bettman must be beating his chest and looking at Adam Silver and saying, you see those two clunkers you had for Game 7?
Yeah, they're Game 7 for worse.
Look at us, my friend. This is how you do it. It's amazing to me that the level of play, though. I mean, I know it's an abstract game, but when you start watching it and then you're sort of really involved, as we were, because we couldn't stand the whole concept of losing the Mayo on this bet.
Yeah. I mean, that took it to another
I don't even care if he pays off. He already offered.
I know.
To send us out to
a
very nice replacement for Anthony's Runway 84, which closed briefly for a while for remodeling.
Yeah.
And Anthony Bruno, one of the local restaurateurs here, very successful with things all over the country. In addition to South Florida, has another place, a smaller place called Anthony's Live Fire Grill. So Mayo is ready to go and spring for that tonight.
He is.
I can't make it though. I couldn't make it tonight, but I don't even care. Like he could take us to the pizza spot or one of his other joints.
Yeah, I'm happy anyway.
It was just that he lost.
Yes, I just wanted it done.
Yeah. Buy me a Coke, man, and a hot dog at the track. That's all we need. I don't need the fancy dinner now. It would have been impossible to deal with somebody as insufferable as this man is capable of being. And, I mean, it would have been almost Stephen A. Smith-esque to be this dead wrong about the outcome of the series.
Yes.
I don't know if I could have accepted that. I mean, we never said that it was going to be a surefire runaway.
No. I just thought they'd win the series. I thought after all they did this year, all they've faced the last 26 years, they'd get through the first round this year. That seemed like a safe bet. It almost
I didn't believe the previous 26-year history of this futility really had anything to do with this year. Nothing. I don't believe that there was a choker's mentality going into the series by anybody. I didn't realize how long some of these guys have been around because we've been waiting for these young guys to, sort of mushroom into stars.
It's been like a decade.
And they have, but Barkov's been on the team 9 years.
Yes, I'm aware.
Hoobie Doobie came in around the same period of time.
It's when we're doing the morning with Goldie. Do you remember? That was literally.
Yeah. We would have Huberto on, and he wasn't exactly, overwhelmingly fluent in English.
He was young.
And he would come on and say a few things, and we're figuring, okay, good, this is great radio here. Some guy with an accent that is incomprehensible. Hey, you could see the program director like throwing, a piggy bank against the wall there, just busting it up and hoping to pay you off finally with a very low severance package. All right, we're coming back with more. Jessica Blaylock going to be with us here on the show. We'll be with you until 9 o'clock Eastern. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz. Always good to be with you here on Ion Channel, and they're returning with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
I think that might be the record, Lubie. It's 8:08.
It's up there.
Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers, Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. Thank goodness for Landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
Hear me. I am your new president. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. Silence. In addition to that, all citizens will be required to change their underwear every half hour. Underwear will be worn on the outside so we can check. Furthermore, all children under 16 years old are now 16 years old.
What's the Spanish word for straitjacket?
Power has driven him mad.
Welcome back to the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz with you, and happy to have you along for the ride here on this Peel Yourself Off the Mat Monday. I have to give thanks to one of our followers, a gentleman named Jack Sharp. I think you've seen him comment on some of the posts that you put up about the show. In my case, I catch this only on Facebook. But always, big supporters, are supporter of everything that we do, Lubie, and it's greatly appreciated by us. And he suggested it's time for me to break out those 1,000 Dennis Schwidtke jerseys that I still have. When I completely misgauged the Panthers' ability to draft players back at a time where they were staggering, like they'd been out on an all-night drunk, like they were the Philadelphia 76ers after that ridiculous embarrassment of a Game 5 against the Miami Heat, partying all night on South Beach on orders from Adam Silver for LeBron James to get the 76ers out of their hotel room. I think that was, there'll probably be audio of this someday. TMZ will pick it up, TMZ Sports, of Adam Silver calling LeBron James and saying, just get them out of their hotel rooms, Bron. All right? And I'll guarantee you that your kid plays in the league. You think it's possible that we're onto something with that conspiracy theory that Adam Silver had to bail out of a large wager that he had made on DraftKings? And they weren't going to accept the Chinese sneaker money that he was siphoning off. And now that, he was facing a possibility of the 76ers coming back in a series, he incorporated the, use of the fact that LeBron James was already partying in Miami.
How do we get LeBron?
And obviously would influence. I mean, if LeBron James calls you and you're Joel Embiid and you have a game the next day, a pivotal Game 5 of a basketball series where you have the chance to move on and maybe win the Eastern Conference and even the NBA championships. It seems like, Lubie, is there now much more vulnerability to the Western Conference entry?
That's what it feels like.
That it's not the Phoenix Suns?
Well, and the Warriors were playing strong, but then the way that they struggled versus a Grizzlies team that didn't have their best players sort of gives pause with them. I mean, the Celtics and the Heat finished off strong opponents in dominant fashion. And the Mavs came out of, that's the thing is we're still writing off the Mavs. I am. They pounded the Suns. And it wasn't just offensively. Their defense, which you never have thought about them as a defensive team, their defense was good. Their defense is what shut down the Suns and allowed them to have role players excel in offense. But I'm not even giving them a shot versus Warriors. And I really don't know why. They just did their job.
They really responded. You talk about responding to adversity. They're down in the series. And they come back and administer 2 bludgeonings to a team that's clear cut was the best in the NBA all season long and playing great, symmetrical basketball, all the way through the end of the regular season. Got dusted up a little bit there by the Pelicans in that series, but you could excuse it away by the fact that Booker was out for those couple of games that they lost. They came back, distinguished themselves as once again being deserving of being considered the favorite. And, their coach, Williams, ends up getting coach of the year. You could have made, I don't know, well, nobody on their roster. Booker was never seen as a possible MVP candidate. Chris Paul was playing great. He hit 20 straight shots in the postseason. in the first round. How did it fall apart so completely? I mean, just inexplicable. Is Adam Silver involved again? Was LeBron?
You and Adam Silver.
Did you see LeBron sipping a cocktail out of a cactus? I mean, what was going on there?
The NBA is the one league we usually can predict, and without question, it's chalk.
It's a chalk league. I mean, it really is chalk league.
I didn't understand that series was one I was like, oh, okay. Like the Mavs shouldn't have gone past the Jazz. Like the Mavs are one of these teams that people wonder how long will Luka be there because they can't surround him with talent. They get him Porzingis, and Porzingis now is done. They bring in a Dinwiddie, who was a poor man's third guy, let alone to have him be like your second guy. Brunson was a guy that was cool at Villanova, but no one thought he'd be like a legit player, let alone star in the league. And then they just, without Luka, they played well versus the Suns. Then with it was just like, I guess they're really good.
What happened? I mean, is Mark Cuban under sedation or something?
Yeah, he doesn't.
Because he made so much money. I mean, after he became a billionaire on Shark Tank by constantly snookering Mr. Wonderful into bad deals. I liked him better when he was getting fined all the time for cursing out the commissioner, right?
Yes,
I mean, he and David Stern, it was $250,000 a pop every time he opened his mouth.
Yep.
But he has to be reveling in this. No, that was an improbable result. I really believe that. I thought that Phoenix, I don't know that I would have gone out on a limb like Stephen A. And there was the indicator. If you were going to raise the ire of the gods of gambling, all you would have to do is listen to that dissertation by Stephen A. Smith that the Dallas Mavericks had no chance, that they were going to get blown off the face of the earth, that they would be impaled to a cactus by the end of the third quarter of Game 7, and that the Phoenix Suns were set to move on and face the Golden State Warriors, who ended up prevailing over the Memphis Grizzlies. All right, I believe, Lubie, we are going to be talking to the lovely Jessica Blaylock here. Is she ready to go? Oh, beautiful. This is great. And, worthy of the proper introduction, one of our favorites here. And, our good friend Leslie Visser was among, if she wasn't the pioneer of female sports broadcasters, I guess, what was there? Jane Chastain was here in Miami, and there are a few others. But the evolution of female sportscasters has really been terrific to see. And there are some that are just really outstanding. We love talking to Kate and Bradar. We think she's the best analyst in her sport. Yep. And it's a delight to turn on the television, whether you're watching a Marlins game or a Panthers game, especially as we were riveted to this series with the Panthers and the Capitals. And wow, I mean, what a high wire act it turned out to be. But whether it's in between periods, before or after the game, during an inning of baseball, very adventurous in her reporting and very on point when it comes to her analysis. We welcome to the show the lovely Jessica Blaylock of Bally Sports Florida. Always a pleasure to have her. Jessica, how are you? Good to have you on the program. Thanks for getting up with us.
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me on. I always love coming on with you guys. You're the best.
Well, we really appreciate that. And we've become hockey experts, we'll have you know, in the last 2 weeks.
We're talking about hockey the last 2 weeks.
We know everything, man. We're screaming at the screen there for Brunette. What are you doing pulling this goalie? What are you out of your mind? There's 3 minutes to go in the game. And of course, it worked out, which, but I mean, maybe you were watching this like I was. And we mentioned, I think the last time you were on, we had this bet with the, insufferable Mike Mayo, who, has some kind of issue I think he had with like Doug Sifu years ago. So he's extremely biased. And he claims he was rooting for the Panthers to win, but he bet us that they were going to lose to the Capitals, which, it's not an outrageous proposition, 1 versus 8. And we saw, I mean, this was a very dicey series. But as that puck was sliding towards that empty net in that game, that crucial game that the Panthers came back and won, and otherwise it looks like they're out of the series. Did it not remind? I don't know if you've ever been in a situation on a 2-lane highway, Jessica, where you pull out to pass what you think is one truck, and it turns out to be 7, almost locked together, and then you see headlights coming the other way. And we were seeing Mayo's face driving the oncoming truck, and when that thing just missed, I mean, you talk about a game of inches. How did you feel when you were watching it?
Yeah. Well, I was stressed out the entire series because obviously,
everybody looked a little verklempt there on the set after those games.
one, just, the monkey that the Panthers wanted to get off their back of not having won a playoff series since 1996, having the target on their back of winning the President's Trophy and being the number one overall team in the league. And then also understanding, the playoffs were very unique this season for the East in the sense that every team that made the postseason in the East finished the regular season with 100 points or more.
Insane.
Washington had 100 points in the regular season. This was not a normal 1 versus 8. You knew that in the first round, there were multiple really good teams that were going home. We just saw it, in the first round. Boston didn't advance. Pittsburgh didn't advance. The Toronto Maple Leafs didn't advance. So I think I went into even the Panthers' first round series against the Capitals knowing, okay, there's a lot of pressure for them to not only win this series, but to have to beat a really good team to do it. And yeah, so I mean, my stress level the entire time, we should have had a camera just isolated on me to see my responses. I should have been wearing a heart rate monitor to really keep track of how I was doing. But it was just the whole time. It was just, high intensity games, really other than game 2 being kind of a blowout for the Panthers. Every game was tight, comeback wins, overtime wins. So yeah, really just a ton of credit to the Florida Panthers for showing that they could play a physical, gritty, grinded out style in the playoffs.
Well, Jessica, what was interesting to me is, as we all, I guess, were on the same page of living and dying with every minute, which is really hard to do when it comes to hockey. Like every minute, if you're doing that, you really almost die. And we did that a lot. It felt like this team had sort of been prepared for this all year long. And as you watch regular season sports, especially hockey, Stanley Cup playoffs is the toughest thing. I kept telling myself they can't win this way in the playoffs. So it was freaking me out, but they did. They kept winning that way in the playoffs. And it's almost like, unlike past Panthers teams where you would see them fall under the pressure, this team under pressure is where they wanted to be. And Brunette, who's supposedly the interim coach, didn't act like an interim coach. Like Defo said, he was making calls that you would have to be in the league 20 years to make and not batting an eye. The team didn't bat an eye. And every time he trusted in them, where I was stressing out, it seemed like okay, good. Thank you. You're still here with us. And they did things you would not expect to see in a Stanley Cup playoff.
Yeah, I mean, because you think about it, the regular season is so incredibly different than the Stanley Cup playoffs. Games tighten up so much.
Yep.
And yeah, like you said, you're not expecting in the playoffs to overcome a 3-goal deficit, like they did in game 5. You're not expecting to pull your goalie with 3 minutes left and the puck just missed scoring an empty net goal for the opposing team by inches, and then you come back and you score a game tying goal and win it in OT. I mean, just some of these moments in this series were unreal. And I think, so many guys talked about it. Those first couple of games, maybe a little bit of nerves, maybe feeling the pressure a little bit, maybe not really playing to their identity. And then, they had a team meeting after game 3 when they went down 2-1, and just kind of talked about the importance of getting back to who they were and believing in each other and knowing what they were capable of. And, then you see how the next couple of games played out, and really, game 4, 5, and 6, a lot back to their identity that we saw in the regular season. The ability to not be out of games, the ability to overcome deficits, the ability to have depth scoring. So I think in those last couple of games of the series, we saw the Panthers not just establish a little bit of what their playoff identity is going to look like, but just really get back to what we've known them to be throughout the course of this past regular season.
The lovely Jessica Blaylock of Bally Sports Florida with us here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz. Glad to have you guys along for the ride. I have to say, 3-0 there in game number 5. I actually put on a pair of Depends Jessica. I couldn't take it anymore. I don't know about you. My hair was standing up like Don King, and
I just buried my head in my hand
yeah,
on the desk when it went down 3-0.
yeah. I had a piece of swordfish. I was sitting in a restaurant watching a game in a bar, and that thing nearly went. Thank God I missed the screen. I probably would have had to pay for the damages there, but they come back and that one, and it was kind of wild. Now, couple of things. I mean, Lubie and I always go to the stat sheet, but I believe the final number was 0 for 17 on the power play, as they say in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
What's up with that? I mean, what are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
Jessica?
Yeah, it's really it's unreal if you think about it. We talked about actually the stat of teams that have won a playoff series without scoring a power play goal, and previously it was only 3 teams, and it all happened in 2020. Columbus, Montreal, and then the Lightning beating Columbus, I think it was in that next round. And it's crazy. You think about the importance of special teams and, how much that can play or impact, not just the game, but an overall series. And I think what makes it even crazier is that the Capitals, especially TJ Oshie, Oshie had 4 power play goals in the series. So I think it's one of those things where, the Panthers are almost in their own head at this point right now on the man advantage. And I think once you get that first power play goal, it's gonna break things open. It almost I think reached the point where they were either overthinking it or maybe trying a little too hard, really looking for that first one rather than just letting the play naturally unfold. So I think right now at this point, it almost feels more like it's got to be a mental breakthrough on the power play than anything else, because they did have some good looks. They did have some good opportunities, especially when they went back to that 5-forward look that they ended the season with. But yeah, I think the biggest thing at this point with the power play is just break through, mentally get that first one, and then things are going to settle back down.
So what's interesting about this team, as opposed to, I don't know if you were around here the last time they made a run, was there was a lot of no-name guys here. Ray Shepard was okay, and Mellenby had some success, and Drovakop was a big-time draft pick, and Van Beesbrook had a nice career, but it was a bunch of guys that come together, Lindsay, and they played well. This team's not that. Like, this team's star-studded. Like, Barakov's one of the top 5 to 10 players in hockey. Huberdeau should have won the Hart Trophy. He's not even a finalist because that's how Florida's treated.
Ridiculous.
Ekblad, one of the best defensemen in hockey, probably would have won that last year. Bobrovsky has shined on the playoff stage, won Vezina trophies, plural. Like, this team's loaded. They then trade for Giroux, a guy who probably taking it for the Hall of Fame, But the guy that stole this series is a guy that, we've heard his name, but he's making $2 million over like 2 years. Connor Verhaeghe had one of the greatest playoff series ever. Literally 5 points in a game, and I think he scored at least a point or 2 in every single game. Where the heck did that come from? And what did that mean to this team to see a guy like that who shined to that level?
Well, I think, and Jovo and I were talking about this. I think people forget, Carter Verhaeghe won a scoring title in the AHL. Carter Verhaeghe has a Stanley Cup. He won a Stanley Cup with the Tampa Bay Lightning. This is a guy who had the talent, but when he played for Tampa, was just buried on the roster because of their incredible depth. So I don't think that Carter Verhaeghe's performance, and, because think about too, when he came to Florida, he's been playing top line minutes for them since he got here. So I don't think at this point that people should be surprised at Verhaeghe's talent and what he's brought to this team. I think it was a matter of getting the right opportunity with the right team, and that's exactly what he has gotten with the Florida Panthers. And stepped up and single-handedly made a huge impact in that series against the Capitals, including that 5-point night, which set a franchise record for most points in a game, in a playoff game, And so he is a player that Andrew Burnett, I always go back to this word, describes him as just tenacious. He has such a nose for the puck. He is so good at pursuing the puck and getting possession of the puck and making plays happen. And I think you're seeing a guy who the talent was always there, but now the talent has had the opportunity to shine and grow and develop and, you know, push the pace for this team and do what he was always capable of. He just needed the chance to show people what he was capable of. So, yeah, you know, looking at that series, all I can say is we're going to remember that playoff performance in that series for a long time to come.
Right up there with the Bill Lindsay goal.
Who
I flashed before me a couple of times during the series. Lindsay flying, prone to the ice and slapping one in there in a huge playoff win. Jessica Blaylock, our guest here on the Defo Show from Bally Sports Florida. And it's funny, too, to hear Lubie talking about Hubie getting screwed for the Hart Trophy, which he thought was named after Mary Hart, or Jim Ray Hart, or Jimmy the Mouth of the South Hart, before he had this bet with Mayo on the series. All right, a dirty word, and I hesitate to mention this because my dogs are kind of circulating around the, location we're broadcasting from here in the house, and they don't like to hear the word Vasilevsky, Jessica. They start barking, man. They go crazy. Now this guy's good. And once again, I think he had some incredible number, like 5 straight shutouts in clinching games for the Tampa Bay Lightning as they're, going back-to-back to win the Stanley Cup. And he was a difference, I thought, in the series last year against the Tampa Bay Lightning. So what's your feeling about that? And is Bobrovsky showing enough strength to make you think that he can counterbalance what we probably figured Vasilevsky is going to do in terms of magic between the pipes?
Yeah. First off, I think to be the best, what's the sports cliche? To be the best, you got to beat the best, right?
Yes.
I kind of love that, the Panthers' path to the Cup now includes having to knock off the Tampa Bay Lightning. Not just Vasilevsky, but the team that is, the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champs. I think that, you look at that series between Tampa and Toronto, I think you saw in game 1, Vasilevsky gave up 5 goals to the Leafs.
Yeah.
He's still, 100%. He's still the best goaltender in the league. I completely agree with that. But I think that there's also opportunity there, and the Panthers put a few goals on him in the regular season too. So I'm excited to see. I really am. I'm so pumped for this series against the Lightning. And yes, on the flip side, I think Sergei Bobrovsky has been incredible. I think he was so good in that series against the Capitals. I think he had a really, really good regular season where he worked hard coming into it, and the results obviously showed. I think the Panthers overall, these guys out on the ice have so much confidence having him back there in the net, and especially the way that he played against the Capitals. He made so many huge saves that kept the Panthers in the game and put them in a position to win the series. And, there were so many times where we're so focused on, Verhaeghe's performance or Reinhart because he got that game-tying goal in game 4 or, whatever it may have been. But there were so many times Sergei Bobrovsky could have been the player of the game, in every game against the Capitals. So I feel really good with what we've seen from Bob. I know that you're going to have your hands full anytime you're facing a team that includes Andrei Vasilevsky. But I think there's opportunity there, and I'm really, really pumped to see how this series plays out.
Can't forget about my man, one of the great pickups at a trade deadline for a team that was contending, the great Claude Giroux, who had he was a major catalyst in those last couple of games, especially with that late game drama and some big plays that he made, big-time veteran plays, indicative of what he did when he was with the Flyers in his heyday before they opted to, let him go and in this case, seek greener pastures. All right, Jessica Blaylock with us. One more thing, if you don't mind. Actually, two. I lied about that. The Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, we talked about this earlier in the program, Jessica, before you came on. There never really was any great steamy rivalry inside the various professional, franchises in their individual sports here in Florida. Like the Dolphins, I don't care if they're playing Tampa Bay, maybe with Brady there. Jacksonville doesn't, have any luster since Brunell left. But there was never like a big thing like, whoa, man, I got to go to that Jacksonville game when the Dolphins were playing them. Heat with Orlando, I mean, maybe, a long time ago, but it never really developed into like an in-state rivalry where the two teams didn't like each other, like, say, the Gators and the Canes. In this case, though, I mean, you would know this better than we would. I mean, these two teams really don't like each other. I mean, this is like, one of those UFC press conferences where Dana White has to feign separating them, even though, they're not going to kill each other till they get into the ring. But is there really genuine bad blood here with Tampa Bay and the Florida Panthers, Jessica Blaylock?
Oh, I think so. I think it's absolutely turned into a really, really good rivalry, not just in the state, but in the NHL. Everyone that I talked to was pulling so hard for a Florida-Tampa rematch because of how good that series was last year. And, we saw it, we've seen it for the past couple of seasons now. Like, these games, they get pretty nasty.
Yes.
They get pretty intense. These two teams know each other so well. And you think about especially how many times they saw each other, during the COVID shortened season and last year, and then in the playoffs, and the intensity and the bad blood just continues to grow each time. And I fully expect, we thought it was a physical, intense series against the Capitals. I fully expect for this series against Tampa to be even that much more physical and intense, and I think a big part of that does stem from the way these two teams feel about each other and the constant question, who really is the best hockey team in the state of Florida. And now you've got the two-time defending Stanley Cup champions facing off against the team that won the President's Trophy and finished number one in the league. And you better believe that these games are going to be, they're going to be good. They are going to be good. And a big part of that is because of how much this rivalry has developed over the past couple of years. So yeah, like I said, I am really looking forward to it. And to see just kind of how these series are going to play out from not just the X's and O's, but kind of the emotional intensity that goes along with it too.
Yeah, I mean, there could be some ugliness. I saw a clip. I don't know when this took place or who the Lightning player was, but Sam Bennett looked like Rocky Marciano. I mean, like doing a number in
yeah.
one of the biggest poundings I've ever seen in a hockey fight. Yeah. So no love lost there. All right, one final thing. These hockey games
are front row seat to that fight, by the way. Where did he come from? I saw him tweet out a video of that fight from that regular season game, and I said, I don't think Minervini sits ice side. When did he get A-list status?
He has a way of worming his way into things. I mean, he really is. If it's free, it's me. When it comes to the whole journalistic ethic about trying to never have to pay for a thing. All right, these one-run games the Marlins are experiencing. I know you also do a fine job with the Marlins as well, but you've really been enjoying your coverage, especially during that first playoff series with the Florida Panthers, which was far more compelling than early season Major League Baseball. But it's been torture. I mean, what's up? I mean, who's gargling with more Maylocks? The brass of the Panthers or Don Mattingly at this stage of the season?
Yeah, it has definitely been tough. I've watched as many games as I can when I haven't been on Panthers duty, and even working Panthers games the other night. I had the game on. I think it was when Pablo pitched and struck out 9, and they lost 2-1.
Yeah.
And I feel for these for these games, just how tough they are, and especially when you get pitching performances like you do from Sandy or you do from Pablo, or and you just can't find the run support, and sometimes especially in baseball when it's such a long season and you just have so many ebbs and flow of a season, it just kind of rains, when it pours, or whatever the saying is, where when you get the run support, you can't get the pitching, or vice versa. When you get the pitching, it's tough to get the run support. So, the one thing I'm encouraged by is you always know with this rotation, every once in a while they're going to have a tough outing, but for the most part, you're always going to give yourself a chance in games with this starting rotation and the way that it's built. And now we're seeing Soler, kind of hit his stride power wise, and we're seeing that it's not just one guy in the lineup, right, that's having to get it done. You look at the lineup and you feel like, okay, if Soler didn't get on base, Aggie's due up next, and Aggie certainly has power. And if Aggie can't get on base, then you got guys like Andy or Avisayo Garcia or Cooper or whoever it may be, and you at least know you're always going to give yourself a chance in an at-bat. So I think it's just one of those tough stretches, because, they won 7 straight earlier in the season. This team is certainly capable of winning ball games.
Looked good for a while.
I don't think that's the issue. It's just sometimes in a season that is so incredibly long, you just kind of go through these stretches where it almost seems, not necessarily what the opponent is doing, but you just kind of can't seem to get out of your own way, right? And so I think this team's going to be fine. I know the one-run losses are frustrating, but again, I think you look at overall the makeup of this team and what they did during that 7-game stretch, and you see the potential, and you see the wins from earlier this year, and at some point they're going to be on the winning side of some of these tough ball games.
All right. Well, as we anticipate the traditional collapse of the Mets, the one thing that might haunt me to my grave is that Alfaro 3-run homer with 2 away in the 9th inning of a 2-0 ball game, especially since it was a guy that was here just last year. That was ugly, Jessica. All right. We love you. Thanks so much for being on the show. Fantastic stuff as always. I'm assuming you will be on the same duties with the Panthers' second series, or does the local broadcast team get to do these series?
Bit different. Yeah, a little bit different now that it's the second round. We can't obviously the team broadcast. The game itself is taken over by national coverage at this point, but we will have you covered for post-game shows.
Cool.
So after every game of the series, we will be doing full post-game shows, full breakdowns. And so you can catch all of the post-game shows for Florida Panthers coverage on Bally Sports Florida.
Nice.
All right, great. And we'll look forward to seeing Craig Maynardini's face pinned to the glass as he attends the game as a spectator after working the Marlins series. Jessica, wonderful as always having you on the show. Really appreciate it. Applaud your work there. It's a delight to watch you and your team there on TV. Really made that series a lot more fun and a lot more interesting from many different angles. Thanks so much for being with us on the program. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you, guys. I'm so happy for Florida Panther fans that they got to celebrate that series win. They definitely deserve it. They've been waiting a long time, and so let's keep this ride going for sure.
All right, yeah, and I hope I don't run out of Xanax during the second round, because it was wild. I mean, that was some ride. Thanks for being with us. Always a pleasure.
The playoffs will officially be sponsored by Tums from here on out. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, I mean, I'm eating Xanax bars like they were Hershey bars when I was a kid. I mean, just one after another, trying to maintain some kind of composure watching these games. It was great. A real tightrope walk all the way through. All right, thanks. Always great. And hope to speak to you again during the second round of the series here, the quest for the Stanley Cup. How tough is it to win that trophy? Mike Lubitz. I mean, it does sound like sporting cliche, and that you're just pandering to the few hockey psychos that are out there that always somewhat, I mean, is it true? Do they represent more of a cult following than an actual sports following? This is the major sport that, ranked 4th in virtually every category of the big 4 sports, and probably still does, right? I don't know. Are these TV networks, they're They're not getting enough excitement. Do people watch whole hockey games even at this level, Lubie, unless their team is involved?
Oh, that's the thing is, I used to years ago. Now I only really watch my team when it comes to hockey. But they're getting a lot of me right now. I don't know what they're going to get next round. It's going to be interesting to have the Heat and the Panthers go head to head. I don't know what the heck I'm going to do.
All right. We'll come back. We'll wrap things up. Let me tell you about Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill and what's going on there. Now, John Kajemi,
Yes,
what's the story with Kajemi? Is he coming back soon? He's got a few weeks off. He had to rearrange his schedule.
Yes.
But we certainly like to incorporate him into the show, especially now. There wouldn't have been much today by comparison to the rest of the
There's
sporting
not a lot
world
of NFL right now.
to talk of the NFL. But the Dolphins did make a move by signing Melvin Ingram, a supposed ferocious pass
Really
rusher.
Yeah. Edge. Yeah, he's really good.
All right, so they're all in there, Lubie. What do you think?
All in. I'm happy. This is what I wanted. Like people, Dolphin fans were talking themselves weird about like, well, who knows? I'm happy. They're a team that won 9 games and 10 games the last 2 years, and they have a better roster. That's a good thing.
This is how sick the gambling world has become. There are lines on games like that are taking place in December. I guess maybe this has been going on for a while, but even I, who pay great attention to this sort of thing, I wouldn't have thought about. Wow, I mean, I think I'll take the Bills in December, getting 4 from the Chiefs. How do you make a judgment like that at this stage? I mean, it's the same thing, like the silly exercise of running through the schedule. I was just when I was doing a little morning research here about results and things that happened in sports last night. I'm online on CBSSports.com, and they actually have a guy analyzing who got hosed in the scheduling, which I guess people do. When you have a team like the Raiders, especially when they were in Oakland, I don't know. Does the same hold true now that they're in Las Vegas, where they were just traveling like, or the Seattle Seahawks always have, you would think an onerous travel schedule because they have to travel the most miles, and then they're going West Coast to East Coast and playing 1:00 games. Very tough. But does it require in-depth analysis at this point in time, Lubie, to see who got hosed on the schedule?
No. Oh, no. The whole schedule releasing is a total joke.
Yeah.
Like, who cares? I've never cared about that ever. Like,
Me either. Yeah.
That makes I don't. Well, because that's the thing, especially. Look, the NBA, you have an idea, and we saw some teams like the Mavericks get a little better, and you saw the Hawks fall back, and you saw the Cavs get a little bit better. But for the most part, you have an idea in the NBA. The NFL, every year it changes. Like the Bengals were.
Look at all of this transition the Dolphins have gone through. You think they did this to be like a 9-8 team again?
Well, and that's the thing is like this idea that everyone's going to be as good as we think they are never happens in the NFL. So look at the schedule now and do the win-loss thing. It's fine. I mean, but it means literally zero. And to sit here and really do it where you're actually going to put your money on it now? Are you kidding me? No way.
Well, and it kind of went with the antithesis in terms of philosophy and positioning to what, and I was thinking about this morning, what Jimmy Johnson would do. Where Jimmy was the guy that would trade away a Tyreek Hill to get a zillion draft picks, which he did with the Herschel Walker deal. Still legendary in NFL history, and obviously one of the most transformational deals, which was mocked universally by virtually everybody.
That's so funny.
Now, you've had that backfire also. I mean, when Mike Ditka, traded his entire draft there with the New Orleans Saints to get Ricky Williams.
Yes.
And Ricky turned out to be okay when he was with the Saints. Now he had his big years with Dave Wannstedt when Wannstedt ran him into the ground and made him carry the ball 600 times.
Honestly.
This poor man. No wonder he was smoking all that weed and reading, strange novels at the foothills of the Himalayas while living in a tent for a while. Had to be suffering from some serious dementia. And he wasn't all that outgoing to begin with, right? This kind of Jim Eisenreich condition where, around crowds.
Yeah, he had a social anxiety thing.
Broke out in hives, yeah. It happens to me, too, whenever I'm about to do a show.
Yeah, definitely.
What are these blotches?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, I was thinking, what would Jimmy think? Would he think that this was wise? I mean, to go all in Tyreek Hill and then make all of these other maneuvers, and you're sort of positioned now without knowing if you have a quarterback that can be capable of executing some kind of real progressive step for the team. They would have to win like 11 or 12 games.
Only win 11, 12 games.
looking what they did as being successful, would they not? If they come back with like a 10-7,
No, you don't do all that for
great
10
shape. Yeah,
No, you don't do everything they've done for tenants. I mean, you just don't. You don't keep the guys they keep the defense intact, bring back the defensive coordinator, do the move they did to get a
change coaches. Yeah, I mean,
all the running backs, make the move for Cedric Wilson Jr. I mean,
trade all your draft picks, pretty much, except for like a 3rd and a 7th. Unbelievable.
You do that,
but I was wondering what Jimmy would think about all this, and I'm not sure, that he wouldn't take the position that they really blew it, that they should have counted on their own ingenuity and acumen in picking players and had a young roster of guys that were going to be complementary to a quarterback that they may ultimately have to move on from after this year, maybe even during this year. That's possible. But great place to watch the season. Wow. I mean, opening day, I think I'm going to go to that Patriot game if I get lucky enough to score some tickets off of our good friends from Deal Volkswagen. I don't know if that maneuver is still, open. I would assume that's going to happen. But so I'll be at that game. But any other game during the season, what a place to go. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. And a great place to chill out. Wow, it's getting muggy out there, Lubie.
Yep.
Don't you want to be just sitting with even if your knees are just in the pool, right? Where you're sitting on the ledge there. Doesn't it feel better than if you're just taking an absolute physical beating outside?
Oh, yeah.
The sun and then the impending rain and all of this humidity. I've noticed I'm schwitzing more in my walk of life. So great place to relax and chill out during these hot summer months. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill. Also a great place to dine. Terrific food. Dominic and Jimmy does a great job in the kitchen there. The vibe is always good. And wow, with all of the sports going on, wow, Lubie, think about this weekend.
I know.
You have all of these things happening. The French Open, the PGA concluding on a Sunday. Preakness stakes taking place on Saturday. And then all of the basketball and hockey playoffs and baseball going on at the same time. Great place to watch it. Take it all in. Get yourself a great meal, something terrific to drink as well at reasonable prices. Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill, mile marker 104, catching the essence and the vibe of Key Largo on the Overseas Highway. All right, we'll come back and wrap things up. Been a lot of fun being with you. So many doors to open here in the sporting world, and I have to say once again, I mean, it's a departure from the real world, which has reared its ugly head over the weekend in fashions. Wow. 3 times.
3? Oh, God, I don't know what the third one was.
3 shootings, yeah.
Buffalo, Minnesota. What was the third one?
Crazy people. There was one in a church, and
There's
another
a supermarket.
one. Yeah.
Buffalo.
The supermarket one in Buffalo was, hideous with 10 people being killed. There was one in a church and another one, another location also. It's weird that you can't keep track of it because, it's like a matter of routine and very sorry circumstance out there. And, all these people, gun advocates, I mean, I don't know what the answer is. There's probably no one simple answer.
No, obviously.
Because you can't, as I've said about many of my relationships, you can't comprehend and dissect and understand crazy.
No, that's the thing.
Yeah. If a person's crazy, they're crazy. I mean, there's very little you can do about, stopping it unless you somehow have an eye on virtually everybody. And
exactly.
This is some ugly stuff that was happening. So our sympathies go out to all of the people that were impacted. We're all impacted in a
way. Yeah, everyone. Yeah, it's sad.
Who wants to think you're going to roll down the street here to the supermarket and somebody's going to start shooting up the parking lot? Forget about it. All right, so good to have the deviation into the sporting world, and that's where we will stay here on this program as we continue in a moment. Now that. It's 8:53.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on the Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show. Good to have you guys with us here on the Defo Show. Peel yourself off the mat Monday. Jeff Deforrest and Mike Lubitz. A lot of exciting things coming up during the week. And I would imagine Tony Segreto will be all over this thing. How much time do you think we will spend on the women's softball playoffs, where once again his Florida State team and your Florida State team, which you don't talk all that much about, the Florida State women's softball team. Not exactly a mainstream thing. Jim Sarney would appreciate this. But that's happening. I would have to say I'm overwhelmingly impressed with the progress that women made and I consider that version of softball to essentially be the equivalent of the women's version of hardball, no? Because you don't see that many women that actually play hardball, the traditional, baseball. But the progress that these girls have made is pretty incredible. Now we know the pitching is almost impossible to hit, and yet they do hit, and they hit with power. But the fielding is sensational.
Yep.
I don't know. I mean, you know the feeling. I was thinking about some of the great things, the feelings that you get from playing sports at any level, and it really can be inspirational and something that's influential in your life. When you feel good about yourself, right, Lubie? I mean, I was trying to figure, what would be the greatest pleasure? Is it sort of jogging in from the outfield after you made a great catch? Maybe walking off the mound after you struck out the side in the ninth? Hitting a shot, twisting, turning three-pointer out of the corner to ice a basketball game at the buzzer. I mean, these are all things that you may or may not have experienced, but always fun. And like I said, at any level, I mean, just creaming a shot, cross-court winner to win a tennis match after, even if you're playing a guy that isn't all that great and your level isn't so terrific. I mean, just the fact that you were able to do it, and now, you walk to the net there for the congratulatory, hey, great game, go fuck yourself, which is probably, I don't know, are they thinking that? It seems like, they kind of get together, maybe, they get together and actually acknowledge each other, as was the case with this fight. You see it in boxing a lot. And there's no greater, I will stop and watch that hockey tradition. I mean, this is another one of those things.
I think that's crazy.
The handshake line is like
nuts. That's nuts.
I mean, you guys are knocking the living daylights out of each other with the venomous attacks, and then right after it's like seconds after the game is over. It's like 4-3 in overtime or 3-2, like this one in Calgary did, and then they're already in the line there, like it was a Little League game. Remember, you used to do that in Little League.
We do with my kids, and even when it's hard for me sometimes after a game that matters not at all with little kids to go shake the other team's hand, even though I make my team do it every game. Like to watch grown adults after they put their blood, sweat, and tears into a series, and they go, "Good job." And it's like, "Good job."
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I do have to applaud the women out there that are playing softball. I mean, the defensive plays that are made, that you see them highlighted on SportsCenter. But in general, I mean, I didn't know. I mean, this is not meant to be misogynistic or sexist, but women didn't play baseball like that. You would find the one rare girl, that could actually play. When I was growing up, and stick with the, and be a viable component of a game involving guys, right? Are we going to let Alice play? Okay. And you could count on, that girl to make, the competent plays, whatever position she was playing. But universally, I mean, the improvement is incredible. And as I said, I mean, with the French Open on the horizon, we should acknowledge this young lady, Iga Swiatek, has won 28 straight matches in 5 consecutive tournaments.
Yeah.
And she doesn't appear to be like that dominant force like when Serena steps on the court there, or at least when she did in her heyday, which was a long heyday. It was like, oh my God, what chance does this other person have? You don't get that feeling at all with Iga Swiatek, and yet she finds a way to grind out wins. She's only lost 5 sets in the 5 tournaments where she's won the title.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, and 28. Oh no, 5 sets I think total in the 28 matches. Yeah, which is encompasses this run that she's on, and heading into the French Open, unbelievable dominance. Now Ashley Barty, who was the number 1 player in the world, she retired just all of a sudden out of nowhere. I guess wasn't happy with the rigors of touring and had plenty of money, so she decided to retire and not play competitively anymore. And this Iga Swiatek has just taken over by storm. A very competitive women's tennis world and circuit where, as we were saying last week, you watch these girls are bringing it, man.
Yeah.
I'm applauding the women that are, participating in all of these major high-level sporting events. Now, you did have one game, 2 basketball players that I respect greatly on the female side, Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi. You would not want to play Taurasi one-on-one for money, would you, Lubie?
I always thought she could play with dudes. I was one of those people that, not saying she'd be in the NBA, but when it came to college basketball, she'd be on some teams. Like, she was really good.
Yeah, Sue Bird has a different game, but Diana Taurasi is like Earl of Pearl Monroe.
She was a G. She was great.
Among women's basketball players. Terrific and very consistent and still around. Like, I mean, what is she, like 50? I think Gino Ariema still had zits when he was coaching when Sue Bird and Taurasi were playing there at the University. Rebecca Lobo was probably on those teams, no? Think about the people that this coach has had on the squad there while he's drubbing, Quinnipiac 107-30. It's great. All right, a lot of fun being with you. Both of our local teams moved on, and
Yes.
so Celtics Heat. I think that's terrific. I'm not sure how I feel about that series. I don't know that I would want to pick a winner. Naturally, our heart will be with the Miami Heat and Pat Riley, especially after that hideous portrayal that he had survived of Pat Riley in Winning Time by the actor that did. It really made him look like Joe Pepitone. And and the Panthers, I don't believe, and this is impossible to determine, but I don't believe there was any pressure at all over the fact that this team, was trying to account for 25 years of playoff futility for the Florida Panthers. I think they just went out there and played their game. Caps gave them all they could ask for. They were very lucky to survive in many ways, and at the same time, they kind of did their thing to a lesser extent than they did in the regular season when they were winning every night, no matter what was taking place. And very nearly we're trailing that series 3-1, which the Rangers were able to bounce back from. But who knows what would have happened there if you're down 3-1 to the Capitals, who were right in every game all the way through for the most part. I guess there were 2 lopsided games, and everything else was like airtight with the Panthers on the ropes in almost all of those games. So very interesting weekend. I did want to mention, too, this Jermell Charlo. Congratulations to him, boxer, 154 pounds, one of the Charlo twins. His twin brother, also excellent, is the middleweight champion, and he became the undisputed, all 4 belts, believe it or not. It was weird. They couldn't fit all of the commissioners from the various boxing alphabet soup organizations in the ring because they all wanted their moment with the guy. But he knocked out this guy, Brian Castano, in a rematch, and it was a very impressive performance. So I did want to mention that. It was interesting, too, because they had to kill an hour on Showtime. Castano gets to the arena late, and then he wants to have all the time that he needs to warm up and get ready. He didn't want to just, rush into the ring there, put the gloves on. So they were killing time on Showtime. I think Jim Gray interviewed every celebrity that ever, was in a movie in L.A. during that period of time. And your man, Mauro Ranallo, he nearly screamed himself hoarse because even when he's just talking, he's screaming, this guy. Screaming. I mean, he's interviewing Al Bernstein and Abner Maris, who do the commentary. Of course, we love Al, and I like Abner Maris. I don't know how great of a commentator he is yet, but he's a cool cat and was a great fighter. And just looks the part. But Mara, he couldn't help himself. He was so exhausted from screaming when they finally got in a ring. He had nothing left, and almost did a normal call on the bout, which was contentious at times. But this Jermell Charlo was the real deal. He's among the best in the world. I believe that. All right, we'll see you guys tomorrow at 7. A lot of fun being with you. Thanks so much to Jessica Blaylock for being with us. A lot to talk about on the show tomorrow with the Heat and the Panthers in action and all the different things that are going on, as this could be one of the greatest weeks weeks in sports history, I believe, in terms of being a fan, with all the different things happening. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 as we leave it on that.
The time.
It's 9:05.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.